Did you know Johnny Depp's lawsuit against Amber Heard cost him far more than anyone imagined? When you first heard about the case, you probably thought the same thing most people did, just another Hollywood drama. Two celebrities throwing accusations, tabloids having a field day, and fans picking sides like it was some kind of reality show. But behind all the headlines, memes, and courtroom clips was a man fighting for something much bigger than money or fame. And now, after keeping quiet about the true cost for so long, Johnny has finally opened up about what really happened, what it really cost him, financially, emotionally, even personally. And honestly, what he said might just change how you see not just him, but yourself, too. You see, if you've ever been through a situation where the truth felt like it was slipping away, where it felt like no matter how much you spoke up, people just didn't want to hear your side, you're not alone. That's something a lot of us felt when watching this whole ordeal unfold. The court of public opinion can be brutal. People judge you by a headline, a clip, a rumor, and they think they know everything. For Johnny, that feeling was amplified 1,000 times. And hearing him finally open up, finally tell his side in his own words, it really struck a chord with his fans. When he decided to sue Amber Heard for defamation, the world watched. Some thought he was crazy. Some thought he was desperate. Others cheered him on, saying it was about time he stood up for himself. But no one, not even Johnny, could have guessed just how much this fight was going to cost him. In his own words, the lawsuit ended up costing him more than $10 million in legal fees. $10 million. Just let that sink in for a moment. That's not his damages, or what he was suing for. That was just what it took to pay the lawyers, the court costs, the experts, the endless paperwork. Just to have his day in court. Just to be heard. And he admits there were times it felt like he was just throwing money into a black hole. Every month, more bills. Every month, more calls from his legal team, telling him how much more it would take to keep going. And even when he finally won, even when the jury sided with him and awarded him damages, it didn't magically erase all the years of damage to his reputation, his career, his peace of mind. Can you imagine that? Fighting for your name, while watching your savings drain away. Writing check after check, knowing that even if you win, it won't make up for everything you've lost already. That's the kind of pressure Johnny was under for years. He could have walked away. He could have said it wasn't worth it. But he didn't. And when he was asked why, he said something so simple, yet so powerful: you can lose everything, but if you lose your name, you've got nothing left. That's why he kept going. That's why he fought, month after month, year after year, even when the odds felt stacked against him. And here's something a lot of people didn't know: during the trial, he actually started selling off pieces of his art collection just to help pay for everything. He cut back on his lifestyle, stopped spending like he used to. Downsized. This is a man who was once one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, and yet here he was, tightening his belt, selling paintings, just to keep fighting. It's humbling when you think about it, isn't it? For someone like Johnny, who's lived in mansions, traveled the world, bought islands, to have to part with things he loved just to keep his case alive. But maybe the most surprising part of all, even after all of that, even after losing millions, even after all the sleepless nights, the stress, the humiliation, he says if he had to do it all over again, he would. That might be hard for some of us to understand. Why put yourself through all that again? Why not just walk away and let it go? But for Johnny, the answer was simple: his name was worth more than any amount of money. He even joked about it at one point, saying he could always paint more pictures, he could always do another movie, he could always make more money. But he couldn't paint over his reputation. That was something no amount of money could fix if he didn't fight for it. And honestly, isn't that something we can all relate to? We've all been in situations, big or small, where it felt like staying quiet would have been easier. Like letting someone else have the last word, even if they were lying, just to avoid the fight. And sure, maybe you didn't have to spend $10 million to stand your ground. But haven't we all paid a price in some way for speaking up? Maybe you lost a friendship. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe you just lost your peace of mind for a while. But what Johnny said after the trial, that really resonated. He said, "Don't let fear of the cost stop you from standing up for yourself." And he meant it. Even if it feels like too much, even if you're not sure you'll win, even if you feel like you're all alone, there's a kind of peace you get from knowing you didn't just roll over. He also talked about how much it mattered to have a small circle of people he could really trust. Friends, family. The people who stuck with him when the media was tearing him apart, when strangers were calling him names, when it felt like the whole world was against him. He said those people were his lifeline. And it's true, isn't it? When everything falls apart, you really find out who your people are. That's something we all need to remember. Who's standing by you when times get tough? Who's there when no one else believes in you? Those are the people who matter. And finally, he said something that I think we all need to hear every now and then. No amount of money is worth staying quiet when someone is lying about you. He said even if he had lost, even if he had ended up broke, he still would have been able to walk away knowing he stood up for himself and told the truth. And that kind of peace. You can't put a price tag on that. Because, for Johnny, it wasn't about winning in the eyes of the world. It wasn't about walking out of that courtroom with a big check or a headline saying he'd won. For him, it was about looking in the mirror every morning and knowing he didn't let someone else rewrite his story. He said he'd rather live in a tiny apartment with nothing to his name than walk through life carrying someone else's lies on his shoulders. That's how important it was to him. And you could see it in his eyes when he said it. There was no anger, no bitterness, just a quiet resolve. Like someone who's finally found their footing after years of feeling lost in a storm. When you think about it, that's something most of us take for granted. We assume our name, our reputation, is just there. We don't think much about it, until someone tries to take it away. And when they do, you suddenly realize how fragile it is. How quickly gossip and accusations can spread. How fast people who don't even know you will decide who you are. Johnny talked about that feeling. How helpless it felt at first, watching his whole life being painted in someone else's colors. Headlines that made him sound like a monster. People who had never even met him turning their backs. Fans he thought would always be there suddenly disappearing. He said it was like drowning in silence. But when he finally decided to fight back, something shifted inside him. He said he could feel a weight lifting, even as the bills piled up and the stress mounted. Because for the first time in a long time, he was fighting for himself. Not his career. Not his money. Not his movies. Just himself. Even knowing he could lose, he said he felt freer than he had in years. Because the truth has that kind of power. He said he learned a lot about people during that time. About who really cared about him, and who just liked being around his fame. About how quickly some so-called friends disappeared the moment things got hard. But also about the unexpected kindness of strangers, letters, emails, messages from fans who believed him when no one else did. He said those little reminders kept him going, even on the worst days. And he also said he learned a lot about himself. That he was stronger than he thought. That he could survive things he never imagined he'd face. That even in his lowest moments, he still had something no one could take, his own truth. That's why, even if he'd walked out of that courtroom with nothing but the clothes on his back, he said it would have been worth it. Because at least then, he could finally breathe again. At least then, he could finally sleep at night knowing he hadn't just let the lies win. He said peace of mind is something you don't appreciate until it's gone. And when you finally get it back, it feels like the most valuable thing in the world. And that's something we can all learn from. No matter how big or small your fight is, no matter how much it costs you, standing up for yourself matters. Telling the truth matters. And the peace that comes with it. You really can't put a price tag on that. So let me ask you, Have you ever stood up for yourself even though it cost you something? Maybe it cost you money, or friendships, or opportunities, but you did it anyway because you knew it was the right thing to do. If you have, you know how hard it is. But you also know how good it feels, deep down, to not let someone else define who you are. And if you haven't yet, maybe this is your reminder that you can. I'd really love to hear your story. If you've ever been through something like what Johnny went through, maybe not on such a big, public stage, but in your own life, I'd love to know. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself, even though it felt like everyone else was against you? Have you ever felt like your reputation, your good name, your truth was being challenged, and you had to find the strength to speak up, no matter what it cost you? Those moments, as hard and painful as they are, really do shape who we are. They show us what we're made of. And sometimes, they teach us more about ourselves than we ever thought possible. So please, share your story in the comments. You never know, your words might inspire someone else who's going through the same kind of struggle right now. You might help someone find their own courage. And if hearing Johnny's story gave you even a little more respect for him, if it made you stop and really think about what he endured to clear his name, then I hope you'll stick around. Because in my next video, we're going to talk about something even more surprising, what Amber Heard secretly admitted after the trial was over. A lot of people missed this part of the story, and when you hear it, you're going to see everything in a whole new light. It's one of those twists that you just can't make up. So trust me when I say, you're not going to want to miss that. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, if it made you feel something or think a little differently, then do me a quick favor. Give it a thumbs up to let me know you liked it. It only takes a second, but it helps the channel so much. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe. That way you'll never miss another story like this one. Because at the end of the day, the truth really does deserve to be heard. No matter how loud the lies get, no matter how many people doubt you, the truth is always worth telling. And so is your voice. Your story matters just as much as anyone else's. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening, for keeping an open mind, and for being part of this conversation. It means more than you know. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.